Hey YouTube, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing some work on this awesome Squier Contemporary Jazzmaster. I just got it yesterday. I have a couple of things I want to do to make it more contemporary maybe. Firstly, I'm going to swap these active pickups with some passive pickups. In this case, I'm going for these bare knuckle Blackhawks, which I think everyone can agree look sick, and I'm hoping are going to sound just as good. Other things I'm going to be changing are the nut, obviously, because this plastic one is shocking, and also the tuners. They're not great, the stock ones, and I'm going to be using these Gotoh staggered locking tuners because that's just going to help with things like the break angle. It's hard to see from this angle, but there's a huge ramp on this E and B strings going to the string tree here. But then because these two tuners aren't staggered, they're getting pulled back up, which is bad for your tuning stability. And also the G string is pretty much nearly going straight to the tuner. There's not much down angle over the nut. So a new nut and new tuners are going to fix that. Apart from the pickups, tuners and nut, I'm actually really happy with this guitar. There isn't really much else I would do to it. I was considering changing the bridge, but it actually is pretty good. It doesn't rattle like some of the Jazzmaster Adjustomatics do. I remember I had a Jazzmaster and the bridge rattled something fierce on that one, and it just didn't sound great and didn't perform well. But this one is solid. Nothing rattles, nothing moves, so I'll probably keep that. So basically the biggest upgrades is going to be the pickups, which will also involve me changing some of the electronics, like I'll change the pots and the caps, and I'll put a treble bleed in. I'm going to be using a push-push pot in the tone. It's a 500k push-push, and I'll potentially be doing some coil splits for the two pickups, and depending on what the output sounds like, I'll either just do straight coil splits or I'll do a partial coil split like in my previous videos. So let's get into it. Okay, so it appears that there's a minimum of shielding in here, so you know what I'm going to say I'm going to do next. I'm going to shield this with some copper shielding tape, which looks like this. Got to make sure that the adhesive is conductive as usual, otherwise making a Faraday cage will be a lot more difficult because you'll have to solder each bit of tape together to complete a circuit. So I'm also going to shield the back of the pick guard where the electronics are going to be. So this will be this section and where the switch goes, and the pots as well. Make it all one nice cage. Okay, at this point, all the wiring's done. I've got the bare knuckles wired in, and you can see I've done all the shielding. I've stuck down 2 pieces of foam just to kind of keep the bare knuckles straight in there, and also help reduce some vibrations by keeping them in place. Kind of similar to hard mounting them, except they're mounted to the pick guard. Wiring's pretty standard. I've got the push-pull here, which those white wires coming off just connecting to the white and green wires from the bare knuckles to coil split. And yeah, you can see the treble blade there. Apart from that, pretty standard wiring. It's wired up exactly as it was before, just with different components. So I'll put that together now, and I'll test to see if I'm happy with the coil splitting. If I think the output drop is too much, I'll just simply add in the resistors, the 4K7 resistors, like I have in previous videos, to do a partial coil split mod. Okay, so I've just rewired the push-pull a bit to do the partial coil split mod, as you can see with that blue resistor going to the ground instead of just a normal wire, and I've got that on, if you can see, on both sides of the switch. Okay, before I clean the frets, I'm just going to check that all of the frets are level. So basically, you use one of these edges and you glide it over 3 frets and you find a rock like this. And then you simply use a fretting hammer, don't just use like a ball peen hammer or something like that. Give it a gentle rap and then check. And now it doesn't rock. So now those 3 frets here are level. So you basically go and do that for every fret. Next step is to clean the frets. So to do that, I'm using one of these, a 3-step nail buffer. So obviously step 1 will be the coarsest grit, then it'll go to a finer grit to the finest grit here. So you just work the frets using the roughest grit first, obviously. Just go in like a 45-degree on both sides and lightly across the top. You don't want to take off material that you don't have to take off. So yeah, go gentle on it. Okay, and that fret's done, just like that. So now go ahead and do that with every fret. Hopefully you can see how this fret that I've just cleaned is shinier. There's a bit of rubbish there. It's a bit shinier than the next fret. So yeah, basically you want them all to be nice and shiny like this fret. Okay, once you're done, all your frets should be nice and shiny, like this. It's important to keep your frets in good shape and clean. Increases the playability, smoother for bends and stuff. And also, it's important to get rid of scratches and minor gouges and stuff while you can off your frets, because those become spots for dirt and sweat and all that kind of corrosive stuff to kind of gather in and start eating away at your frets faster. So it'll actually make your frets last longer in the long run if you clean them. Again, not every time you do a string change, but every time you notice them getting a bit dirty, a bit cloudier than usual. Okay, so now we're just going to put some Harron's board sauce onto this fretboard, which is very dry, and then we'll move on to the nut. Okay, for the nut, I'm going to be using this nice piece of unbleached bone. I find it's just tonally much superior to the old plastic. You can hear how much denser it is by just dropping it on a hard surface. So this is the plastic one, and this is the bone one. So yeah, just better for vibration transference, sustain. They're also self-lubricating, so tuning as well. So yeah, I always prefer to put a bone nut in when I can.